Way back in September 2019, Millom was one of 101 places invited to benefit from a £3.6 billion government pot of money called the Towns Fund. The local council and Millom Town Deal Board secured £20.6 million from this pot, plus £8.7 million in match funding. This money is to create 32 jobs, that's about £1 million for each job. Mostly the plans involve colouring the pavings, but there is also a promise to restore or create 7 buildings, the NatWest Bank, a new cafe next to it, and a building called the Welcome Centre on the Millom Beach end of the seawall.
At least 4 further town centre heritage buildings will also be refurbished.
The main issue is that buses will not be able to turn in the square, and so there will need to be a bus stop somewhere else. The old NatWest Bank, a beautiful building that has seen better days. The plan appears to be to make it look spick and span. However, the main issue is the new development in the adjoining garden. There is a pretty horrible-looking box construction adjoining the old bank, presumably the vault. The new building, a cafe, is completely out of context. It looks like nothing anywhere else in the town square, though it might be thought to be quite similar to the vape bar on the edge of the square. The difference is that the vape bar, also a former bank, is quite a striking architecture, whereas the proposed building is little better than a lean-to. The best thing that can be said about it is that it is not much taller than the boundary wall and consequently has limited visibility. As well as the pool, there will be a gym and leisure facility. Millom already has a well-used gym and there are plans to build more. One of them is in the old W. Milligan & Sons car showroom. The aspirations of the project aim to increase the number of visitors from approximately 40,000 to 150,000. Why has the town deal not widely publicized the intention to have an extra 110,000 visitors? Is there sufficient spare capacity in the existing caravan sites and holiday lets for an extra 110,000 visitors? The location of the Welcome building is particularly unfortunate since it is between the slag heap and the waste tip. This seems predicated on the assumption that most people will arrive by car and use the new car parks. Surely the community would get more benefit if visitors stayed, say, at one of the caravan sites and walked onto the seawall? The Iron Line is going to cost £10 million. That works out at £90 per extra visitor. Is it worth it? The Iron Line derives its name from the High Line in New York, an elevated freight rail line that has been transformed into an ambitious public space. New York is a dense city with a huge population. Clearly a small percentage, and a very large number in real terms since the city is so big, is interested in the industrial heritage. Millom is a very small town, and even when all the local caravan and camping areas are full, the numbers visiting Hodbarrow and the sea wall are relatively small. What the town deal is trying to do is Disneyfy Millom's heritage by embedding rails into the path and the like. The idea is to create a false history. Whilst there certainly were rail lines, they were not generally elevated. And they were nothing like as significant as the shipping, the mines, and most notably the ironworks. Land art is the name given by the consultants to weird and wonderful structures that serve no practical purpose but simply look nice. And what's wrong with that if they do? What's disappointing is that the consultants have slapped copyright notices on their drawings, so this video cannot show you what it might look like. This street sculpture in Blackpool is quite similar to the land art running up to a new hide they are calling the Annie Lowther. The land art is supposed to refer to the historic elevated railways. Did Hodbarrow really have elevated railways, or is this just false history? It is hard to believe this picture, an old postcard, taken from the consultant's presentation, is really a railway, elevated or not. This video can include the picture because it is more than a century old and out of copyright. It is good that the town deal seems to have given up on its obsession that all the furniture, signage, benches, picnic tables, etc., has to come from the same design portfolio. It is obvious that you have to talk to the families of those memorialized by benches before discarding them. However, generally the concept of a single design is flawed since people sit on seats because they want to sit down, not because of the way the seats look. The town deal says, with the coastal position comes an exposure to the elements, meaning that visitors often enjoy the wind through their hair or sun on their face. Hodbarrow is not a timid environment but rather a vast and powerful landscape that embraces visitors with all its might. There is a wildness about Hodbarrow that should not be compromised. The new gates, 4 or 5 sets on the beacon side of the sea wall alone. This is particularly disturbing. If all those gates are not an attempt to tame the wildness, how could the wildness be tamed? What they plan to do at the scheduled ancient monument is add suspended periscope mirrors, whatever they are. Perhaps they are children's toys. At the windmill they want to include a camera obscura, which really is a child's toy. This works by capturing an image, the landscape, and then projecting it on a dark area, presumably the inside of the windmill. A better idea might be to stand outside and look. The windmill is clearly being lived in, at least from time to time, by the homeless. The plan to insert what looks like a large pencil inside it and sticking out the top is particularly cruel and very ugly. The adding of a camera obscura might have been revolutionary 200 years ago but now seems utterly pointless. Also, gimmicks like this require considerable maintenance. Where is the maintenance budget? When it comes to ugliness, the plans for the windmill do not compete with the welcome building. It looks like a 1950s bus station and is straight from the New Brutalism School of Architecture. The RSPB was offered this building and turned it down. The building's main function seems to be purveying tea and buns, yet the much better sited and much better designed Herdwick Cafe on the other side of the sea wall closed. If the aim of creating a nationally significant visitor attraction is achieved, source, Design Access and Heritage Statement, there will have to be an advertising and promotional budget to tell people about it. How much does Town Deal intend to spend each year?